Hello everyone, this is Bill with Yarn Crafts for Lefties. Today we're going to be going over with yarn front, with yarn back, English style. I just did one for Continental and I figured while I'm here, let's go ahead and do one for English. That way I'm able to build something for the left-handed knitters who do English style. When we are working with a concept of with yarn front and with yarn back, I'm going to ask that you don't even think about right and wrong side of your fabric. That doesn't matter. Whenever we knit, we always have a side of fabric that faces us and a side of fabric that faces away. Doesn't matter. That is the way it always works. The side that is facing us at the time that we're knitting is our front. The side that faces away is the back. With that said, when we're talking about with yarn front and with yarn back, I'm going to have you stop and think for a minute about how you hold the yarn for when you do a knit stitch and how you do a purl stitch, because believe it or not, you're already working with the concept of with yarn front and with yarn back. You just don't know it. Whenever we make a knit stitch, our yarn is behind or in the back. When we make a purl stitch, what's the first thing we do? We bring the yarn over to the front and then we make our purl stitch. So you're already doing in transitioning between with yarn front and with yarn back. You're just not realizing it. Now here my pattern is going to say with yarn back do whatever. In this case, it's with yarn back, slip the next 2 stitches. And then it's going to have me go ahead and then knit. And I apologize for any awkwardness that you see here. As most people know, I'm a predominantly continental knitter unless I'm doing color work. Then I make use of both. So now I've reached the point again in my pattern where it tells me with yarn back, and because we've been doing knit stitches, our yarn's already in the back. So I get to go ahead, do what my pattern tells me after it says with yarn back, and then I move on. So now I'll just go ahead and keep working my pattern until I reach the next section. And I am going to pretend, and I'll just go back and fix this later, that my pattern said to purl this stitch. So now that I've done that, my yarn is in the front. But my pattern now says with yarn back, so I'm going to bring it to the back, slip 2 stitches. So as you saw, it doesn't matter whether or not it was where it was for the purl or a knit stitch prior. When it said with yarn back, I made sure my yarn went back here. Now give me 1 second real quick to go ahead and take that out. There we go. So now, just fixing my pattern. In here again, because I was on knit stitches, my yarn is already in the back. So now I go ahead and do what I gotta do. And I've reached the end of that row. So now, we're going to take a look at with yarn front. Give me 1 second to just get myself set up to the point where I need, and then I will switch over to English. Alright, so now I'm at the point in my pattern where it's going to tell me with yarn front. Now your pattern may have you do different things, but when it says with yarn front, I'm going to take the yarn from back here and I'm going to move it to the front. See what's in front of my needles? Now my pattern says slip 2 stitches, so I slip the 2. Now my pattern next says I need to do knit stitches. So where do we need the fabric to knit? We need it in the back. See how you've already been working with the yarn front and back premise? You just didn't know it. So now I'm going to go ahead, knit my next couple of stitches. Whoops. That's what I get for trying to speed myself up. So now I've reached the next point in my pattern where it says to me, with yarn front. Again, because I've been knitting in the back, I need to bring the yarn to the front of the work, which is the side that is facing me. Then it tells me slip 2 stitches. Then it tells me to knit the next 4. My yarn is not in the right place to knit, so I'm going to just swap it to the back again. And then I go ahead and knit these next couple of stitches. So that's really all there is to the premise of with yarn front and with yarn back. When it tells us to do something with yarn back, we need to have the yarn in the back. When it tells us with yarn front, we need to move it to the front. I hope you found this helpful and let you realize that some of these concepts that you're going to approach as you move on in your knitting, you're already using, you just don't know it. Thank you for joining Yarn Crafts for Lefties. This is Bill. Happy knitting.